good morning, everyone. Welcome to Rainmakers Roundup. I could just tell you without equivocation that Dr. Mike Brenner, is one of my favorite people. And I have the pleasure of interviewing my man today. What's up, buddy?
Hello, sir. How are you? Nice to see you.
Doing great. How are you doing?
Great, man. It's great to be here.
I mean that. I
appreciate it. Wow.
I told you that when we first met. You know, he's a musician, so I think that's part of it. But he's a great guy too.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, we did talk about that. There was a certain connection and certain simpatico. Right from that opening lunch we had.
I'm saying that to you.
No, I felt it too, my brother. Okay. I felt it too.
Good.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's great to be here. It really is.
I'm glad to have you. I really am. President of Chord Leadership.
That's right.
And your background in education, Mike, is interesting. It's in adult learning, right?
Yes, it is.
And you're also a musician.
I am.
Sax.
That's right.
So you married those two passions together. Tell us about that.
I did, yeah. So my academic background is in adult learning and leadership.
Yeah.
I have a master's and a doctorate in that area. And I've also been a musician since I was a little kid.
That's
cool. Started playing the recorder. And when do kids start playing the recorder? You know, elementary school, something like that. I was one of the few kids that kept at it.
Yeah.
Graduated to clarinet, transitioned to saxophone, which is my primary instrument. But the marrying of those two worlds is a relatively recent thing.
Yeah.
In fact, it happened about 5 years ago or so as the result of a conversation that I had with a friend and a colleague that helped me see that pairing.
Yeah. Tell us about that. That's kind of an interesting turning point. You know, you're in adult learning. And you're at that point. You're an entrepreneur, so you're doing leadership training.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden, you have this lunch with a friend or a colleague.
That's right.
And then things changed.
Yeah, and it's a story I've told many times. Absolutely a turning point in my career and my life. Tell you the abbreviated version of it. I was vetting this gentleman. Jim, who I'm still quite friendly with, to be a speaker at a conference that I was supervising. And at the end of our lunch, I said, Jim, let me ask you a quick question. You know, you're a successful speaker, you're a successful consultant. You know, I need some help in carving out a more definitive brand, because there are a lot of leadership consultants and trainers out there.
Sure.
And he said, yeah, you know, what do you do that makes you different, Mike? And I remember I said, I don't know. I said, I really don't know, Jim. And he said, that's not really a good answer. Think about it a little harder. And I said, okay, I'll think about it. And I said, well, I guess something that comes to mind for me is the fact that I have a real passion for music, you know, and since I was a young boy, I've been playing music, and I was sort of getting into the rhythm of my response, and he stopped me. I remember it like it was yesterday, and he goes, man, you just answered your own question. He goes, you can't see yourself, but if you could, your eyes are wide, you're brimming with excitement and energy. He goes, you need to pair those two worlds. The passion and energy that you have for music, and the passion and the energy and enthusiasm that you have for leadership development.
Yeah.
And it all crystallized in that moment.
That's great.
And it was like, you know? And I said, wow. But then what he said next, I think was really important. I just want to share that with your viewers. Because I said to him, I said, Jim, it sounds cool, but what if people find the musical component superfluous or frivolous or silly?
Yeah.
And he goes, forget them. He goes, no matter what you bring to the marketplace, there will always be people that don't get it. But if you come out with something that you're passionate about and a vision that you believe in, there are going to be plenty of people who do get it. And man, was he ever right.
Was he right.
Was he right, yeah.
So Mike, how does it work? I mean, how does Chord Leadership work? And what I draw the difference between the way you used to teach, or the way you used to consult then, and then how you consult now, and what the difference is.
Yep, so the musical metaphor, the biggest difference is that the musical metaphor is really at the heart of the work that I do now. I mean, it's baked into virtually every aspect of the business.
Right.
My little elevator pitch when people ask me what we do, I say, we help leaders and teams at all levels find their groove, get in sync, and work in harmony.
Right.
People get it.
Yeah.
The tagline is, when people work in harmony, great things happen. people get it.
Yeah.
They go, Mike, what types of work do you do? I say everything I do is grounded in the chords model, something I created. C is for communication, H is for harmony, O is for ownership, R is for respect, D is for direction, and S is for support.
Wow.
And when you play all 6 of those notes in your culture, in your organization, then you're playing some beautiful music.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be a musician. You don't have to even necessarily, listen to music that intently for that language and those metaphors to really resonate. And it's been very effective to this point. Yeah.
So that turning point when you had that meeting with Jim,
Yep.
5 years or so ago, was something that you said it. You lit up. You lit up when he said, this is great. So now what? Now what do? You go out there and you develop a brand. Talk about that for a minute.
Yeah. So it's funny. Once I said to myself, if I'm going to take this route, I'm going to do it 100%.
Yeah.
I'm not going to half bake it. I'm going to go all in. And so I got out my thesaurus and I started looking up words associated with music. I'm like symphony consulting. Harmony consulting, and I just did 100 of them, and I'm like, nah, they all sound kind of corny or hokey.
Yeah.
And then out of the blue, the phrase "strike the right chord" entered my mind, and I was like, when we strike the right chord in life, it just means we're rocking it.
We're in sync, yeah.
We're in sync. We're doing it. And of course, when you strike the right chord in a musical context, you're playing the right notes. So I just shortened that to right chord. Popped in the leadership, and literally everything kind of flowed from there. And it's really all about harmony. I worked very hard so that it wouldn't just be a shtick, a gimmick.
Sure. Yeah.
I really wanted the connections between learning and leadership and culture and organizational success and music to feel very organic and very natural.
Yeah.
And that took some time to get those metaphors in harmony.
In sync.
But I feel that I've gotten
you bring the sax into the meeting, the leadership meeting?
Not all the time.
Not all the time?
When it's appropriate,
Okay.
I do bring my saxophone in. Particularly if we're doing some work around creativity and innovation.
Yeah.
One of the principles that I talk about is being open and receptive
Okay.
to ideas that may not sound normal, right? Might be outside of our normal paradigm of the way we think. And most of the time what we do is we kind of shut those ideas down right away. That's not how we do things around here.
Yeah.
Or we would never do it that way.
Right.
And my point is, no man, hang in there, listen, explore. And so I do an activity where I bring in my saxophone and then I bring in this percussion tree that I have with cowbells and tambourines and wood blocks. And I call up a volunteer, and this person and I engage in an improvised musical duet.
That's cool.
And we don't know what each other's about to play. We're just we're going with it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We're feeling it out. Call and response, listening intently, building upon what the other person is playing. And we have a live audience in front of us, obviously.
Yeah, sure.
And then we sort of debrief it and talk about what was that like. And then we connect the dots to the organizational context.
Right.
Yeah.
So what happens thereafter? You get people to, people don't realize in a musical setting, right? A band, an orchestra, a chamber, a quartet, anything where there's a number of instruments together.
Yep.
There is that give and take. There's that talking. Drums are talking to the guitar.
Sure.
It's talking to the sax. It's talking to the keyboardist.
That's right.
And that dialogue that's going on there. If you begin to understand how that works, it's just so symphonic in so many ways. And
Yes.
so what happens after you've done that? You bring this volunteer up, and people are looking at you like, man, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, man. That's really cool.
I've never seen anything quite like it.
Anything quite like that.
Right.
So then, yeah.
Yeah. So typically, I'll call somebody. I'll call on somebody.
Yeah.
And I hand them a pair of sticks, and I go, "Have you ever played a percussion before?" 99 times out of 100, no.
No.
And they go, and I say, "Great. I don't want you to have played percussion before. I want
Okay.
this to be a pure, in-the-moment experience."
Sure.
And of course, you get all the excuses. I can't do this. I have no rhythm. I go, I don't want to hear it. Because you are creating a reality for yourself before you've even attempted the task.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Right.
So we do 2 rounds. The first round, I go, okay, you start the duet, and they start playing, and I just play over them. I just blow their hair back. And I stop, and I go, how was that? The audience goes, that wasn't very good. You didn't listen, you weren't in sync. And of course, I did that quite deliberately, right?
Sure,
I go, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I need to do a better job next time. Let's try it again.
Yeah.
This time, though, you know, they go, toot, 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 toot. So I go, boop, 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 and then they get it. And they go, and I go, and before long, we are literally playing a construction, a musical construction in real time that neither of us has ever practiced.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, it's great.
Cool.
And what I say to the audience is, you know, I may not go out and buy that record, you know, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Right.
Precisely because we were open and receptive to whatever was presenting itself in the moment.
Yes.
And I think that is a key principle of creativity and innovation, for the reasons I stated earlier. And people get it. You know, if I were to just stand up there, Mark, and just talk about that notion,
it's not the same.
It's not the same. But when they see it and they hear it and you're engaging the senses and they're witnessing something that I doubt they've ever seen before in that context, that's where it sticks.
That's awesome.
That's where it sticks.
There's that receptivity to thinking outside the box.
Correct.
I can't do this. Yes, I can do this. Mike's communicating with me nicely now. He's not talking over me.
Correct.
Right?
That's right.
And now we're kind of in harmony with one another. We're not making perfect music, but at least we're working together.
You got it.
Right?
You got it.
And we're working on something together that we've created together.
That's right. We are seeing what is emerging in the moment.
Yeah.
It might be wonderful, it might be lousy.
Yeah.
But what we're not doing is, like you said, interrupting each other, talking over each other, using what I call killer phrases.
Yeah.
You know, some of those phrases I mentioned earlier. You know, we tried that once before. That's one I hear all the time.
You hear that all the time.
You know, we would never do it that way around here, and on it goes. And my point is, when that's your opening gambit, right out of the gate, you are potentially crushing an idea before it's even had an opportunity to blossom.
Love it.
And to me, that's one of my key principles when I talk about creativity and innovation. So why not demonstrate that using real musical instruments?
Absolutely.
You know?
All right, we're going to have to go pay some invoices.
Okay,
right?
you got it.
When we come back, we're going to talk to Mike Brenner more about some of the things that he needs to work on, you know, as a business owner, an entrepreneur, and more about right chord leadership right after a message from our sponsors.
Add us on social media to watch bloopers, behind the scenes footage, previews, and more.
I work 13 hours a day, 6 days a week. So when I'm off the clock, I gotta get stuff done. So when I need a snack, I need something healthy, tasty, and easy to eat. Like wonderful pistachios without the shells. They're protein-powered, delicious, and great on the go. And that's perfect for me.
Thanks, Liz.
A woman without a lot of time.
Whether you're a gourmet cook or just want to eat like one, visit Rostelli Market Fresh, your home for the freshest, locally sourced ingredients to please everyone who loves great food. Our organic meats, quality seafood, and free-range poultry are cut fresh to order. Chefs create culinary-inspired prep foods made fresh every day, which pair nicely with our vast selection of fine wines and spirits. Choose from handmade pastas, artisan cheeses, organic produce, and grocery items, all from the finest purveyors. Rostelli Market Fresh, from our family to yours.
RVN TV is a platform for people of any industry to share their story. Over 285,000 viewers are tuning in to RVN TV shows monthly. We guarantee a great experience that you'll be sharing with everyone you know while increasing your personal and company's brand awareness. But what is your brand? According to Forbes, it's a combination of your logo, your product, your design and feel, and your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Welcome back to Rainmakers Roundup. I'm your host, Mark Iorio. I'm with, again, like I said earlier, one of my favorite people of all time, Mike Brenner, Dr. Michael Brenner, Right Chord Leadership, President, Founder. Great to have you, man.
Pleasure to be here.
Great conversation.
I'm enjoying it immensely.
We're talking music. We were off camera. We were talking about music. Mike's a sax player and trained classically, right?
Yeah, so in the early years, I was a clarinetist, and I learned all of the classical, not all of it, but a lot of the classical clarinet repertoire.
Yeah.
I remember playing the famous Mozart clarinet concerto,
Wow.
you know, over and over and over.
Wow.
But then I discovered jazz in 7th grade, and the clarinet kind of went in the attic at that point. Yeah.
Who was your favorite classical composer?
Mozart. I love Mozart. I would say it's a tie between Mozart and Beethoven.
Really?
On some
Yeah.
days, yep. I love Mozart's levity and humor and just beautiful melodies. And then on other days, I love Beethoven's sort of gravitas.
Yes.
So it really depends on the day.
The moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like that too. I go back and forth. I love Vivaldi. I love Haydn.
Yep.
You know,
love that stuff.
Rachmaninoff. I love the intensity
Yes.
of their music.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I love classical music.
Yeah.
I grew up in a classical home. My father primarily played, not himself on the radio, you know, classical music and opera. So I developed an appreciation for it.
Oh, it's beautiful music. You know, so as you've run your business for the last decade or so.
Yep, I've been on my own since about 2008.
2007, 2008.
Yep.
What do you think? What are the things that you feel you can do, or you know, you look back, what can you do better that you're not currently doing that you'd like to work on?
Yep. So my response to that would be incorporating technology more effectively.
Okay.
I'm an old school cat.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I learned by getting up in front of a live audience in a classroom setting. I mean, that's how I learned the craft. There was no e-learning at the time. There was no virtual this or that. But I understand that things change, the world evolves, and the technology ain't going anywhere.
Right.
So I have a bit of a learning curve that I need to do to get familiar with some of these technological inventions. But more importantly, I try not to be mesmerized by the latest, you know, gizmo. I need to find some of these technologies that really incorporate seamlessly into what I'm trying to do and into the brand and so forth. So I know there's a wealth of technology out there. For me, the opportunity lies in being selective and seeing which ones might really take my business to the next level.
Do you think that you can deliver Right Chord leadership via the web?
It's a great question. So I can, in terms of a learning
Platform?
Engagement,
Okay.
or a learning experience.
Okay.
Right? I mean, I've done it before. You know, Zoom meetings and this sort of thing. So sure. I mean, of course I've done that. However, what I do, I think, really requires human beings assembled in a room. Because it creates, as you know, Mark, it creates a dynamic that I don't feel can be replicated in a virtual environment.
Yeah.
And virtual has its pros and some nice things about it. but I've yet to see it truly replicate that experience.
Right.
And so in some ways, what I do comes alive, if you will,
It does,
in a live setting. But if I can use the technology to supplement or complement that, then so much the better.
Fine, yeah. It's not easy to do. I mean, you do travel all
I do.
over the place, right?
I do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You've been all over.
I have, whether it's speaking at conferences or delivering presentations or keynotes. Last summer I was in Southeast Asia, and I did some programs in Sri Lanka,
Wow.
of all places.
Wow.
I even did a program in the Maldives Islands.
No kidding.
Which is a stretch of islands, off the coast of India
Yeah.
and Sri Lanka. And that was amazing. I mean, here I am in the Maldives, speaking to businessmen and businesswomen and bringing my message to them, and it was a trip.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
How do you find new clients? What's the secret to doing that?
A certain amount of fearlessness, I guess, which is something I need to work on.
Right.
I'm acutely sensitive to being too pushy or too aggressive. It's just not my
Not your
personality.
style.
Yeah, I'm more of a laid back kind of guy. But we reached out to different businesses and organizations overseas when I knew that I was traveling there, made some connections, forged some collaborations and partnerships over there, and they hosted me, and it came off extremely well.
Wow.
So yeah, just having the why not? What's the worst that can happen? They go, hey, we're not interested.
No.
What have I lost?
Yeah, nothing.
Nothing.
Not a thing.
But if they go, wow, this sounds really good. It's good for you. It's good for us. It's good for our members. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's how it happens.
That's great. That is really great.
Yeah.
A lot of it is getting out there. Putting the word out there. Not being afraid.
That's right.
Just getting out there and connecting with people.
I believe there is a fine line between getting out there and being too in your face.
There is, yeah.
Of course, and we constantly need to be aware of that and course correct. But yeah, if I'm an introvert, if you can believe it, my natural tendency is introversion.
Sure.
But I know that's my introverted nature is not going to get me business. So I flex into extroversion, and I get out there and I attend meetings and events and conferences, and it's not my natural comfort zone, but I do it because I know it's imperative.
There's a school of thought that I don't know if it was from David Sandler, Sandler Sales Consulting, but he often talks, I think it's David Sandler, talks about the fact that most introverts are better at selling because, not salespeople, but selling because they listen rather than talk about what's going on, how great I am, versus can I find out a little bit more about what your needs are and what your wants are, and then maybe I can tailor what I do to some of your issues.
I think there's a whole lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
Several years ago, I came across a quote that I love, and I've shared it with many people. And I don't know the source of it, or I would give them credit for it. So there's two kinds of people in the world: those who enter a room and say, "Here I am," and those who enter a room and say, "There you are."
Yeah, I love it.
Maybe you've heard that quote.
Absolutely.
Here I am, people. Yeah, we've seen quite a few here I am people be extraordinarily successful.
Yeah.
Okay. But the there you are people, when I come into a room or a meeting, I want to know about you. What are your what do you do? How did that go? How did you start? What inspires you? And it's not a gimmick. I am genuinely curious.
Yeah.
And that inevitably leads into, so Mike, tell me about yourself. It's a much more natural conversation than if I went in and go, let me tell you all about Right Chord leadership and how we can help you do this and how it can help you. It might work for some people, doesn't work for me.
That turns a lot of people
Doesn't
off.
work for me.
Yeah, I think that's why we have a good connection, you and I, because I'm the same way. I like going in. I may be extroverted, but I go into a room and I feel like I care about you.
I felt that from you from the opening moments that I met you, and when you get to be our age, you can sniff somebody out pretty quickly, within 5 minutes.
Yep.
And so I tell people that who are networking in transition, I speak to a lot of folks in transition.
Yeah.
And I say, you know, one of the things that I used to think about networking was I had to go into this big room and tell people how terrific I was, and, until I realized that's not what it's all
not
about.
what it's all about,
No,
yeah.
if I actually do the opposite of that and come in and be curious and tell me about yourself. Oh, Mark, you work for, you know, that sounds, and tell me about that.
Yeah.
Then it's not about proclaiming my greatness at all.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it totally changed the way I thought about network.
Good for you. Size of company, industry matter?
No.
No?
I've worked for companies as large as Boeing and
Wow.
SAP.
Wow.
And the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia.
Fantastic.
To small and mid-sized companies, for-profit, non-profit, United Way, Habitat for Humanity.
Wow.
JEVS, J-E-V-S, which is another organization in Philadelphia I've done work for. So in some ways, Mark, obviously every organization is different. But in other ways, people are people are people,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean, I don't think I've heard in the last 10 years of an issue or a problem or a challenge that some team or organization is having that somebody else isn't
Yeah,
experiencing.
yeah.
So what I do, you know, I have a library of materials that I've created over decades, but of course it's always customized and modified to speak to the specific needs of that particular client, which I
Cool.
think is critical.
Where have you gained inspiration over the years? Who inspired you? Where do you find inspiration?
I find inspiration from many, many different realms. I like to tell folks that all of my heroes are musicians. And I mentioned to you on the phone the other day, I might get a T-shirt someday that says all my heroes are musicians.
I like it.
What makes them my heroes? It's not the fact that they play an instrument. It's the way that their vulnerability,
Yeah.
and the way that they were willing to pour their heart and their soul through a particular instrument, and for the purpose of communicating with people,
Yeah.
and I think importantly, changing. Getting really good at a particular way of playing and then abandoning that and trying something totally new, even if their audience, in the case of Miles Davis hated it.
Yeah.
And said, I don't want to hear this electric stuff that
Yep.
you're doing now. Give me the old stuff you were playing in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Miles went, nope, did that already.
Yeah.
It's on to new vistas. It's on to new horizons. I love that.
Absolutely.
There's a cat named Dan Caro, C-A-R-O, and I came across a YouTube video of his a few years ago. When Dan was a young boy, he was in a fire, a catastrophic fire
Wow.
that burned him, disfigured him, to the point where his parents wished that he would die
Oh, my.
because of the agony. And he actually lost his hands. And he says in this interview, what would any kid with no hands want to do? Play the drums.
Wow.
And he rigged up drumsticks in such a way that he was able to, he went on to become a world-class jazz drummer.
Wow.
And now he plays all over the world.
Oh my God.
He wrote a book called Gift of Fire. And I don't know Dan, I don't make any money from sales of his book, but a guy like that, who was dealt the worst hand that you can imagine, and said, you know what? It's not going to stop me
Yeah.
from pursuing my dream.
Yeah.
You know, those are the guys
That's
and
great
gals that
inspiration.
just inspire me every day. So when I think I'm having a bad day, Mark,
Yeah.
I didn't get the
Look
contract.
at Dan Caro.
Yeah,
Look at Dan Caro.
literally go, look at this guy, Dan.
Yeah.
Look what he's accomplished.
Listen, that was awesome. Thank you so much.
Mark, it was a pleasure.
Mike. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for
My
your time
pleasure.
and for asking your wonderful questions. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell everyone how to get in touch with you? Right Chord.
Absolutely. Right Chord Leadership, my website, www.rightchord, that's C-H-O-R-D, like a musical chord, leadership.com. My email, michael@rightchordleadership.com. And if you're desperate to get a hold of me, by all means, give me a shout, 610-724-3621.
Thanks, my friend.
Thank you, Mark.
That was awesome.
Had a good time.
Yes, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap for Rainmakers Roundup for this week. Have a wonderful and safe week, everyone. We'll see you next week right here on RVN TV.